Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be taking you through my 8 staple stationery supplies. These are my ride or die journaling supplies that I use, if not every day, almost every day, and I thought I would share what my current essentials are with you today. These are the items that if I could go back in time in a Back to the Future style time machine and tell myself what 8 things to pick up first, these would be the items. So I hope you enjoy seeing the items that are my go-tos, my favorites, and if you want to know about any of the items I mention, all links will be in the description below. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first thing that I had to mention in terms of my essential journaling supplies had to be the Stationery notebook. Right now, both my journals are in Stationery notebooks. My bullet journal is in an A5 dot grid Stationery notebook, and my personal journal is in an A6 grid Stationery notebook. And I've been using these notebooks for, I'd say like 3 years now. I went on a bit of hiatus in 2021, but besides that mini break, I've been consistently using these notebooks, and I love them for a couple reasons. The first is this beautiful, really sleek and simple design. I love the minimal branding as well as the relatively durable material the cover has on it. Even though this is a soft cover, I take this notebook everywhere. I bring this to puppy class and I'm able to wipe the dog drool off it easily. So I really love how this notebook can really be taken around for those day-to-day life things. I also really love how these notebooks come with a ton of pages. Stationery notebooks are really cool because you can get them in a half-year size, which has 168 pages, or a full-year size, which has 368 pages. So if you want a notebook with a ton of pages, you definitely have the option to pick that up, and I always like to get the 368 page notebook so that I don't whip through my notebooks as quickly and I can use them for a bit longer. Besides having so many pages, I love the actual layout of the pages themselves. The notebooks have really, really light markings on them. So for my bullet journal, that means a really beautiful light dot grid that's very distraction free and isn't something that my eyes are drawn to when I'm planning in my notebook. And for my personal journal, that's a really light grid that isn't going to, again, distract me and kind of deter from the writing and thoughts I've put on the page. So definitely would go back in time and pick up this notebook for myself. But I imagine if you've been a long time viewer of the channel, this one probably wasn't a surprise to you. Next up, I have my rolling date stamp. This is a stamp that has the day, the month, and the year, and it has the year all the way up to, I think, 2031, if I'm correct. So it lasts about 10 years, which is really nice, and I use this stamp in both my bullet journal as well as my personal journal all the time. It really just kind of gets the job done, and it's really helpful for just getting the date stamped down for either a daily log in your bullet journal, or if you're doing an entry in a diary or a personal journal. And yeah, not too much to say about this one. It just really gets the job done, does the dates in a really quick and easy way. And as you can see, mine is very, very stained. Kind of gross looking, but awesome besides that part. So on the topic of daily stamping and using stamps in your daily log, besides this guy, I also use these stamps in my daily log, which are my next staple. And these are the MU Print Moon Phase stamps. These are their icon stamp, and this set is number 12. These are clear stamps, which means that you actually peel the stamp back. It's this clear, flexible, kind of like gel feeling thing, and you can mount it on an acrylic block and then use it to stamp down. What's great about that is it takes out a bit of the guesswork and mystery that you can get with rubber stamps, and you can actually see where the stamp is being put, which is awesome. These ones have all of the phases of the moon, so you got the new moon all the way to the full moon, and as I mentioned, I use these in my daily log. Although I'm not super into the moon phases, I just kind of find them interesting. I'm not super into astrology or any type of moon sign stuff at all. I do still really like using these in my journal just because I find that it's a cool way to see what the moon phase was on every day, and also it adds decoration in what I like to think is a very functional way. All right, gonna bring this guy back for this next one because the next thing is actually 2 items, and this category, I guess, is clips. So if your notebook is like mine and it doesn't have any ribbon bookmarks sticking out of the bottom to allow you to mark your page, then having some clips to put on pages you like to flip to more often is definitely something that's super helpful and something that I find really, really useful when going through my bullet journal. So I have 2 types of clips I mainly like to use in my bullet journal, and you can see one of them up here. The first one sticking out are the Midori index clips. These are in the color orange, but they're actually more of a brass or a bronze color. And the other one that you can't really see is this guy right here. This is a book dart, and this is also in the color bronze, but it's kind of patinaed and darkened into more of a brown color. I use my book dart to mark off my daily log so I can flip to whatever day I'm journaling on. And I like to use my Midori index clips to mark off any pages I use a lot, things like my monthly log, if I have any goals, things like that. What I also love about both of these clips is both of them are made from a really thin metal, so they can easily be slid on and off the page, and especially if you have a thin notebook like I do, they're not going to weigh down the page in a weird way, so it's not kind of falling when you try to like turn the page and kind of bending your page in a weird way. They're really, really light, so they're not going to add any added bulk, which is awesome. The next item is actually something that I use every day and also use as my decoration for my filming. These are my alphabet stamps. So I got these on Amazon, and I've had these for about a year now. They've held up really, really well. And what I love about them is that they come with lowercase letters, uppercase letters, numbers, and symbols. So you're not going to be running into a situation where, you know, you have a set of stamps, it doesn't have numbers, so you got to get creative with a Roman numeral kind of situation, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't really remember how to read Roman numerals. So I really like having numbers, and just being able to have all of the letters, numbers, symbols makes it really easy to use these because you're not going to run into a situation where you're not going to have the stamp that you need to stamp out a header. I use these in my bullet journal for headers. Right now I'm really liking the lowercase set as well as the numbers. I used to use the uppercase set, and those worked really well as well. Because these are rubber stamps, they do take a little bit of practice just to figure out how to align them where you want them to go on the page, but I think it's kind of part of the fun using rubber stamps, that kind of spontaneous element and not really knowing where they're gonna go. Besides stamps, I thought it would not be right to talk about my favorite stamps without mentioning my favorite ink, since you do kind of need inks to be able to use stamps. I know, logic. These are the Versamagic chalk inks, and these are the colors I use the most. The one on the left is Jumbo Java, and the one on the right is Wheat. Because I use a notebook with really thin pages, I have to be really careful about what stamp inks I use, because a lot of them will either ghost really badly on the page or they'll actually bleed through, which is not ideal. So I really was happy to find these Versamagic chalk inks because they have pretty minimal ghosting and no bleeding on thin pages. So I do tend to kind of rotate between these 2 colors the most. I use Jumbo Java for all of my headers in my bullet journal, and I also use this with my rolling date stamp in my bullet journal and my personal journal. And then I mainly use Wheat in my bullet journal to stamp out the moon phases. And you guys know me, I love a nice monochromatic soft brown color scheme, so These colors are right up my alley. Alright, so I don't use this item every day, but I do use it quite a lot in my personal journal, which is why I wanted to throw it in as one of my staple items. This is the Instax Mini photo printer. This prints Instax photos, which are those little 3x4 prints that you probably have seen around. And although this is the most expensive item in my essentials today, I do find it's a really good choice, especially if you're thinking of buying an Instax printer and you're trying to decide between the printer and the camera. I've had both and I find the printer is 100 times more easy to use and just better because you're able to print the prints from your phone instead of having to print it with the camera. So not only do you have to not have to bring around a giant Instax camera with you, but you're also able to see the photo you're printing where you go ahead and press the print button, which is awesome because then you have less of a chance to get a misprint or a photo that's really badly aligned, which I think is kind of important because these prints are about 10 cents a print, so they are pretty expensive, and I just think the less we can, misprint, the more photos we have for things that we really want, and yeah, just saving money. Who doesn't want to do that? If you're not wanting to shell out $160 for a photo printer, I totally get that. You could totally replicate this just using a standard printer if you have it and just formatting your photos to have a cool little Instax border that's 3x4. I'm pretty sure you can just look up the measurements on the internet and make yourself a template, and that would also work just as well. So because this item is more expensive, I thought I'd just throw in that budget option for you in case you're interested in this. So we have come to the final item, and this guy is probably not a shock to many of you. This is the Sarasa Grand Gel Pen in 0.5 in the color Brown Black. This pen is super cool because, as the name mentions, it's the Sarasa Grand, which means it is the kind of leveled up version of Sarasa's regular line of pens. So instead of the pen having a plastic body, it has a metal body, and you can just switch in and out the refills. And in case you're curious, the pen body color as well as the ink I use is brown black, which is part of Sarasa's vintage range. And I really like this shade of brown because it's just a really soft, kind of desaturated sepia color. So that was my 8 staple journaling supplies. These are my essentials. These are the things that I use really frequently, if not every day. And, there's not a ton of supplies here, but I find a couple staples like a good pen, a good ink, and a couple good stamps in a notebook can really take you a long way and can be used in a lot of different ways in your various journals. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my essentials and kind of the staple pieces that I use right now in my journals. Let me know below if you have any journaling supplies that are staples to you or you use every day. I'd love to hear what they are. And besides that, thank you so much for watching. It's always cool hanging out with you guys, and I'll catch you all in the video next week. Bye!